20th, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording this meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 101-862-125 #, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Channel 8 and 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Now I'll turn the meeting over to our chairperson, Dr. Noble Hanson.
Thank you. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. So we have three items on the agenda for today, but first let's establish a quorum, and when I call your name, please say you're present. Carol Boyce.
Present.
Dick Edwards.
Present.
Ron Broman.
Here.
John Beckley.
Present.
And Noble Hanson, I'm here. So before we start the three variances, Judy has an announcement to make of a new employee in the Health Department.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce the board to Karen Chimwaza, who's our new short-term rental inspector and administrator of the program. She's been with us, this is her 4th week, I believe, so it's going great. Karen, you want to give an update of what you've been up to?
Yeah, so when I started, we had about 500 permit applications. I've been going through those. I've also reached out to the realtors, let them know about the program, introduced myself, and we've started going through the list of short-term rentals registered with the state and reconciling with people that have applied and reaching out to those that have not.
Karen also updated the town's website. She made a nice page, so
Very good.
you get a chance to look at that, so people can go right there, and it's got all the information and anything they need to know and how to contact us.
Karen, as you have been speaking with the rental agencies in town, what has the feedback been from them? Were they all fully aware of this, or was this news to them?
I think the ones that I've spoken to were aware of the program.
Okay.
I think there are several that have not responded, and I think those may be unaware still.
Of the ones you've spoken with, are they handling the paperwork for their owners?
No, none of the rentals agencies have been handling the paperwork. So all owners have been applying.
All owners have been
Yeah.
filing their own?
Everyone has been filing their own, yes.
Okay, even if they have representation through a rental company? Okay.
Yes.
Have you been contacting the rental companies too? Besides the realtors, there's some, like Delmar or?
Yes, so I did a overview of anyone offering rentals in Chatham and sent letters to each of them. So both the realtors, Delmar, it's one of the bigger rental agencies.
Yeah. Right. You have experience when you worked for Eastham, I believe. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was with Eastham for 8 years as their administrative assistant. During that time, I ran their rental program, which has been in effect for about 15 years.
And then have they worked to basically register all their renters and get the whole thing
Yeah.
working?
So they register year-round and short-term rentals.
So it's bigger.
Yes, and they have about 1,500 on file, and there's always a few that
Right.
don't.
Is it running okay now?
Yeah, I think most definitely by the time I started working with the program, most of the homeowners were used to having to register and
Okay.
do so yearly.
Other questions?
So do they have a limit to the occupancy of the homes as we do, one per, two per bedroom plus two?
Yeah, Eastham was just 2 per bedroom. They did not give them the extra
And
2.
is that obeyed in general? Is that, do you have had trouble with enforcing that? You get complaints?
I think for the most part, people did obey that. You're always going to have a few that do not, and they were certainly became known in Eastham. I think in Chatham, it would be a similar situation.
And what kind of approach did the board take to those violations?
When we became aware of the violations, the property owners were called before the board and potentially fined up to, in Eastham, it was up to $300 per day.
And did that seem to solve the problem?
I wouldn't say it was a huge problem. It was becoming more and more, and I think the board was becoming more active in their enforcement, and that was becoming known. So I only got to see it about halfway through the process. I think in the coming years, you'll see if it is effective.
Here in Chatham, in the past, we've had issues like a house where advertising on VRBO or Airbnb, 6 bedrooms, sleeps 20. And if you became aware of something like that, could you do something about that?
Yeah, so there are certainly some that have appeared in our registry that have those over occupancy advertisements. I have contacted them and asked them to change it. So we've had a pretty good response of people changing it back. Now that they're becoming more aware of the limit, they are willing to do so.
Good.
Great, well, thank you very much. I think we put a lot of importance and a lot of work, especially Judy, into this short-term rental regulation that's new and it's ramping up. So I'm thinking that maybe after this summer, next fall, we'd have you come back and you can give us a kind of a more full report on how it went, what you learned, what worked, what didn't work. And I think the way we view it, it's a regulation, so it may well be more likely than not that it'll need some tweaks or changes to help you, or problems that you see, you'll make us aware of, and we're willing to look at that and do that sort of thing. So
Excellent,
that'll be the plan. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, so we'll move to the regular agenda now. First, we have a variance hearing for Martin and Nancy Bach, 347 Bridge Street, Grady Consulting, LLC. And do we have someone here to present that? I think Kevin Grady was the name on the application.
Yes, my name is Gabriel Padilla from Grady Consulting. Hi, good afternoon.
Right. And can you identify yourself? Are you on the?
Yes, my name is Gabriel Padilla. I am with Grady Consulting.
Okay, great.
If I can share my screen here real quick. Can everyone see the plan?
Yep, and we have a copy of it as well.
Perfect. So what we're proposing is to eliminate the existing cesspool that is in the property and replace it with a conventional system. The lot itself is a 7,700 square foot lot, so it's not too big. Therefore, we need to request some variances to accommodate the new system in there. The cesspool, as it is inside of conservation jurisdiction, is within less than 100 feet away from the wetland. So this will go through conservation filing. We already filed, and we have a hearing on the 22nd. We have also provided erosion control to be kept during construction. And that is pretty much it. If there are any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Yeah, now, the cesspool that's there, did that cesspool fail, or is it something you've just voluntarily decided to upgrade, the owners?
No, we decided to upgrade, yes.
Okay, and then there's no new construction of the house, it's the original house is remaining as is?
Everything remains as is. Yes, that is correct. So no change in bedroom counts or anything.
Okay, other questions or comments from the board? And I guess, Judy, I mean, they've placed us in the best place that they can, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
Yes. Yes, the only other location would be the front of the house, but there's a big tree we want to maintain. Also, we would still need many variances to put it in front of the house. And since the cesspool is being removed, that area is already being disturbed. We just, that is the best place to locate this system.
Can you tell me where the existing cesspool is on this plot plan? I'm having trouble.
Can you see my mouse? I'm hovering over. So the cesspool right now is located where the leaching field is going to be located.
Okay, I see, proximate location of existing cesspool. Okay, I see that. Thank you.
Yes.
so for the installation, they'll go in and dig out the old cesspool and all the contaminated soils, and then replace it with clean sand.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward. And they're
Yeah.
they're also proposing I don't know if Gabriel mentioned, they're gonna put in a 40 ml poly liner along the, edge of the system, so to keep it away from the foundation, because they're getting a foundation setback variance, or requesting that.
When they haul out old cesspool debris of this type, what do they do with it?
Usually, I think they just bring it to a
landfill?
landfill or a sand pit yard, and let it air out and decompose.
decay.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, other comments from the board? Any comments from the public online or in the room? All right, and then you can probably get a voice vote for a motion.
I move to accept this
And a second?
proposal.
And then maybe Judy can read the conditions.
So 3 basic conditions would be that the applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record the restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall submit a copy of the deed to the board. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan, and no alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent.
Okay, thank you. So I think we can probably take a vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, that variance is granted for 347 Bridge Street.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Okay, so next we have an update on town water wells and water quality with Robert Faley, Director of Water and the Water and Sewer Department, and he is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Rob Faley, Department of Public Works. So I didn't really have, I do have the select board presentation. I can go through that from last week. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I can answer questions. I can go through whatever suits the board's needs.
I'd say if you could just give us a thumbnail sketch of the wells that we have that are working, that aren't working, the ones that have PFAS, and then there was an article from the Chronicle that went through all the PFAS levels and the changes and where we are with the 2 wells and all. If you could kind of cover that, I think that would be great for us.
Sure.
And assume we don't know too much about it, so be free to give us lots of information.
I will. I'm just trying to, I think Mark loaded this on here for me. I'm just trying to find it. I apologize.
The other thing that we'd be interested in hearing is what the plans are to have additional wells and have adequate capacity for the extraordinarily rapid growth of the population. The summer
Sure.
the 10-month summer population.
They're taking control of the computer, so I'll just won't touch anything or I'll break it. I apologize for this. I was off most of the last week, so. Okay, I think we're here. Okay, so just, briefly, I'll get into all the stats for all the wells in just a minute, but I'll just tell you where we are with, wells 5 and 8. Wells 5 and 8 did test positive for PFAS several years ago. So well 5 has a temporary GAC filtration system, granular activated carbon. Well 8 has been offline for several years. So we just signing a contract with Winston Builders to get our first PFAS filtration plant under construction. We met with them at a pre-construction conference this morning. So that construction will start in the next few weeks. It's a 2-year project, $15.8 million construction project. So treating PFAS is not inexpensive, but it's the state-of-the-art facility that will have 4 green sand filters to remove iron and manganese. And then it'll go into the 4 GAC filters that will remove the PFAS.
And
You
is that-
also,
I'm sorry, has that money already been granted by the town?
It's SRF eligible, so we're borrowing it from Mass DEP as part of
Okay.
the grant program. Considering how PFAS is pretty prevalent in a lot of communities in Massachusetts, we see a lot more competition that's going to be trying to get that kind of money, especially with the new EPA regulations that were handed down. So we're kind of happy that we're out in front of it, but it doesn't mean, PFAS could show up at any time, in any other well. So it's just, we want to stay proactive.
So the funding doesn't have to go through a town meeting vote?
It's already been approved.
Already been approved?
Yep, last year.
So the capacity of this new system, say we needed 10 wells if we needed 10 wells a couple years from now, and well 6 came positive again, and some other wells are positive, would we be able to run all the volume from 10 wells through this system?
No, this system is designed just to handle the flow from wells 5 and 8.
$15 million for 2 wells.
2 wells.
And well 6 was positive in the past. So if that was positive again, couldn't treat it.
Well, if we couldn't treat it, that goes through a different plant. That goes through the Morton treatment plant, which with wells 6, 7, and 9. So they're all located geographically all over town. So it's not like they are interconnected, but they pump separately. So any treatment facility, you really need to have that treatment facility very close to the well location.
now you can still mix and blend water from different wells in a way that can dilute a trace amount found in one new well, right?
That's true, and that's how we treated well 6. Well 6, we were pumping, I don't remember the flow offhand, but quite a bit. I think it was around 700 gallons per minute out of that well. When it did test positive, it was a very low threshold. I think it was 7 parts per trillion. And we dialed down the flow. That water is blended with wells from 7 and 9, and it basically diluted it so it was down to non-detect levels.
Wow. Now, I know a little bit about the chemistry of water treatment. So am I correct in assuming that if we build the system that we're about to build, and it includes the iron and manganese treatment and is it a charcoal? Activated carbon, charcoal? Mm-hmm. That would also effectively remove, as a side issue, any kind of VOCs as well, true?
I'm not an expert in that field, but I'm learning rapidly, and I don't want to misstate something that I'm not familiar
But
with.
my understanding is activated carbon is highly effective at treating trace levels of VOCs. volatile
A
organic.
multiple of contaminants, not just PFAS.
Exactly
Yes.
right. And so there also is a protective shield aspect of building this treatment if other unanticipated contaminants should appear, like VOCs. You probably have that effectively controlled as well.
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
Okay,
But again, only for 2 wells,
only for those 2 wells, right?
so.
Which is
And the EPA continues to lower the target,
yeah.
so the target may become undetectable.
Sounds like we should save some money for future water treatment.
Right, right.
So these filters, they are huge filters. I think around a 12-foot diameter, each tank. This building that we have to house them, so there's 4 GAC filters. So think 4 large vessels that would fill this room, basically, in addition to 4 green sand filters, which aren't quite as big, but they're still substantial. This is a substantial investment, but it will protect the water from those wells for many, many years to come. And that activated carbon, as it reaches its useful life, you can still replace that and still function that plant very well.
So what,
Now, all this water goes into the water tanks,
Correct.
and then it comes out of the water tanks into a big main line. Why don't we put the filters on the big main line so that wherever the PFAS is coming from in town, it would get treated?
There are many residences and businesses that are between a well and the tanks, and they get fed off of those mains, those water mains, before the water reaches the tanks.
Ron, did you have a question?
Yeah, about a year or so ago, we were going to start looking to where the PF is coming from. Where where the PF is coming from, and we kind of just dropped it. But were you going to start tracking where it's coming from?
It's really difficult to track the location, the source of PFAS contamination. It can come from a multitude of sources, and to spend the money to try to find it, which a lot of communities have, and they were unsuccessful. There's so many different sources out there, it's really hard to pinpoint.
What type of, do you see where it comes from? Is it
It comes from a lot of manufacturing, comes from, any kind of a slippery surface, from, your rain jackets to dental floss to
Teflon?
any kind of plastic treatment, so
Fire
it could be,
retardant.
firefighting foam, and, there's a multiple of manufacturing.
And once it's out there, it's out there.
It's a forever chemical.
You don't even need to have an active source now, if it's out there,
Right.
I would think. Do you have a sense, Bob, of looking at the past volume of water pumped and distributed in Chatham through the last several years, looking at the seasonal surges, et cetera, how close we are to needing to develop additional capacity? Or are we comfortably below that, at least for the near future, so we don't have to worry about that eventuality?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think Chatham's infrastructure is overbuilt for full-time residences. It's the summer influx that we have overbuilt our infrastructure to handle that increased capacity. I think the conversation needs to happen more about conservation versus accommodating, sprinkler systems, and that's irrigation systems on lawns. We see this effect on a daily occurrence, especially on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, when people seem to set their irrigation systems. Starting around 2 o'clock in the morning, our pumps come on, the water level in the water tanks starts to drop. At around 5 a.m., 6 a.m., that time frame, we hit the low water mark in the tanks, and all of our pumps are pumping. And they spend the rest of the day trying to replenish that water. We see it start to gain a little bit around 8, 9 a.m., and then as the day progresses, it takes us sometimes 14 to 16 hours of continuous pumping with all of our wells to replenish that water in the water tanks.
So what's your hunch on the percentage of water that we pump through our treatment system that goes to irrigate lawns versus taps?
In the summer, then.
Well, okay, that's a good point, because it would be, that's the crucial window. During the summer, what percentage of our filtered, treated, and delivered water is going to water grass instead of, a glass?
That's really hard to say because our summer population fluctuates so much and they both kind of cascade at the same time.
But it would be nice if we could find a way to greatly reduce the amount of water, treated water, that is feeding an irrigation system rather than just being used for potable water.
We have folks that have registered their irrigation meters. There's about 1,500 of them, I believe, out there. But it doesn't mean everybody has a separate irrigation meter. Some people just use their normal water meter to irrigate their plants. And we're trying to kind of get to the bottom of it. It's been about a year-long process now, but we're really taking a hard look at it this
That
summer.
would be a very interesting study to do, maybe through a university partnership or a graduate student study or something that would enable a properly designed, assessment tool to really capture that. And then that could drive what the town's regulations would then become to seal that.
We know how many cubic feet of water are going through those irrigation meters,
Correct.
but you don't know what proportion of the total water use in August is going through irrigation meters.
I don't have that off the top of my head. I could figure it out.
The way the law is written, if I put a sprinkler in the middle of my front lawn and hook it up to my spigot, but I don't have an automatic irrigation system, that's not illegal. You only need a meter if you have an automatic irrigation system. So it could be that massive amounts of water are being used to irrigate lawns by just a hose.
You just drag the thing around and
And we
move
have
it.
no prohibition to that. If people would put in wells and use those for irrigation, it would go a long way. And it seems to me that by telling people they can have an irrigation meter and then it's okay to pour thousands and thousands of gallons of treated water on their front lawn. So what you're saying is if you have enough money to pay for it, it's
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
No,
And that's really a bad policy. The policy should be, you can't do that.
It was only irrigation systems that were grandfathered, that were pre-existing before 2021.
So you're not allowed to put a new irrigation
No new irrigation systems, no.
on town water.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's good at least.
But how's the rule written? If you have an irrigation system that's on town water, is the rule that you have to get a second meter in there? And
Yes.
what, you're telling us that the compliance hasn't been good? There's a lot, it's hard to tell who has them? And
Yeah, so we need to kind of catch them in the act. We need to see what properties
how
are.
do you do that?
We need
Well, we
nighttime
need people
inspectors.
on the ground overnight in the summertime when they can observe and take down addresses and see whether they have a private well. Do they have a separate irrigation meter or are they using the potable water meter source to irrigate their
We
lawn?
need a bounty system. Put people out there at night with,
Right, and then the ultimate plan is that they would price people out of using, of irrigating their lawn with town water by the second meter, but that's the next step. They haven't really,
Right, because irrigated water, they pay a higher per gallon rate.
eventually. Now, okay, can you just step back and go over the total number of wells that the town has? I mean, we know 5 and 8, and 6, 7, and 9, you said are the Morton wells. How many other wells are actually functioning, or I think there are some that have been drilled that aren't used, or just the total scope of the whole system?
So currently we have 11 wells. Again, 5 is online seasonally, 8 has been shut down because of PFAS contamination. That's what the treatment plant is, to address wells 5 and 8. Wells 1, 2, and 3 are in South Chatham. Well 4 is on its own. Well 6, 7, and 9 are on the Morton Road treatment plant. And 10 and 11, we are pumping from well 11. Well 10, we are holding off. We've been holding off. We've been waiting for the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to give us our blessing on a conservation restriction. So I think we may jump the gun and go ahead and activate that as only a very small sliver of land on private property that's within the 400-foot radius, protective radius for that well. We've worked with the property owner. They're agreeable. It's a kind of a wooded piece of their property. They have no plans to develop that land. So we are just waiting for the kind of the policy paperwork to get finalized. But considering we're on the cusp of Memorial Day, we may go ahead and activate that well as well.
And why is well 8 offline?
PFAS contamination.
Okay. And then, so the new filtration plant, will be finished when, do you think?
2 years.
2 years.
We'll keep well 5 on the temporary treatment plant through this summer.
Yeah.
And then the contractor will take it offline and incorporate that into wells 5 and 8.
And to your knowledge, has there been any talk or any of not letting you blend water with PFAS? Is that, it sounds bad, but you get it down to, I guess, negligible levels, but.
Yeah, so Mass DEP is only concerned with what we're actually providing to residents. So if no matter how we blend it, as long as it's non-detect before it hits the water main going to residents, we're okay. So, and we're testing non-detect on all of our wells.
Right, currently, yeah.
Yes,
There's a lot to this,
there is.
it really is.
Okay, good.
A lot of
That's great.
moving parts.
I'm sure there's more that we don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're getting sidetracked, but
No, we did that.
this is basically just the wells. I do this every month for the select board. It just shows the level of effort for every well, every single day of the month. So this was just for April last month. You could see well 4 was offline most of the month. We had rehabilitated. Well 4 had been over 10 years. So we took it offline when it's lower flows like this, and we were able to invest some money to rehabilitate that well. So that'll be good for another 10 years, hopefully, or more.
So this has been a very wet spring. Nobody's irrigating. How's the total water use for the month of April compared to, say, 3 or 4 years ago?
Let me go back to this
Because
slide here.
the question is, there are a lot of people here in
Right.
town, despite the fact that it's cold and wet, and nobody's irrigating. So that might give us a clue what's going to happen going forward.
April may be a bit early for people to have their irrigation systems on. We typically see them come on in May. But you can see, in the bottom right, so if we start in 2020 and move to the right, 2024, the yellow column, that's a total 21 million gallons we pumped in April, which if you look at the total going across the bottom, it's really a pretty average year. Our pumping hours are high, 248 hours, because we've had a couple of wells offline for maintenance. So we've had a little bit more. The other wells that were making up that ground, they were pumping longer hours to pump that same amount of water. But we're really seeing pretty much average usage last month.
How's the groundwater level now?
That's a good question. I've got that here too. So this is, so the top chart is the Chatham well, observation well. So you can see that the trough at the bottom, which would be, right here, is a little bit higher than the last 3 years,
Okay.
which is good. But, as we get up towards the crest, we are starting to plateau. I don't know if we'll recover quite as well as we did last year. Or is this just a blip and it'll continue to go up, which is good. But Chatham, the observation well is a little bit more temperamental. We like to use Brewster as kind of the bellwether. And even here, it's even more encouraging because you can see the trough is a similar situation. It's a little bit better than last year, but the crest is higher than the previous 3 years. So all things considered, we are recovering. We are not back where we were in 2019 and 2020 yet, but the groundwater is recovering from those 2 critical drought years.
Good.
And then do you put water restrictions on every summer, or do you wait for a certain point and then rush in and do it?
A lot of it depends on whether Massachusetts declares Barnstable County in a drought, what level drought they
Oh, so you have to
consider
wait
it.
for the state to declare
We
something?
typically will wait for the state to declare a drought.
Okay.
And there's like 4 different levels.
Yep. And then how often do you have to test these wells for PFAS? Do you do it voluntarily, or are you mandated to do it by the state or somebody?
Each well has a different criteria. Some are annually, some are,
And how are they set?
Mass DEP sets that.
In approximately twice a year or once a year, or?
Some of them are quarterly, some of them are just annual, once a year. Depending, if we have a hit, like well 6, we did have a hit. It was a small PFAS contamination. They still said annually is fine because it was such a low level. If we spiked over 10 parts per trillion is like 20 parts per trillion was the Mass DEP limit. We'd have to shut the well down. But 10 parts per trillion, that triggers a different testing cycle with Mass DEP.
Right.
Typically, it would be monthly or quarterly if we hit that level.
And how does Chatham, with the water supply, stack up with other Cape towns? I mean, Harwich and Orleans, are all the towns pretty much in the same boat, or have some way ahead with their water supply systems?
If you look at a town like Hyannis, they've got PFAS in every one of their wells, and they've been treating them for years now.
With a plant?
Yes. Other towns, it's hit or miss.
But how about volume-wise with water? Like, we're just on the edge in the summer of,
Yeah, for a small town, we pump a lot of water in the summer. There's no doubt.
yeah.
So, Bob Duncanson used to say, we don't have a drought problem, we have an infrastructure problem. We have a pumping problem and a storage problem. So conceivably, we could have a major water problem if all the irrigation systems came in and a whole lot of people are in town, even in a year where the rain has been good and
We have plenty of water
there's
underground.
plenty of water in the aquifer, but we can't pump enough. So that's a situation where we might need to declare an emergency and restrict water even without a drought.
True. So this will be the first year that we have wells 10 and 11 up and running. So that was a huge asset.
Okay.
Again, 5 and 8 are still down, but we'll bring those online in 2 years. With 11 wells pumping, with, no catastrophic
We're good to go.
things, I think we'll be fine with the amount of water that Chatham uses. Again, I think we have more of a usage problem than an infrastructure problem.
Okay.
But again, if you shut a few wells down, it gets kind of tenuous, the situation could change, and we'd have to go into maybe conservation measures.
How long have you been the director of water and sewer department?
It's a little over a year,
You're still pretty new then.
yes.
Well, I'm impressed with how much you know already.
Well, thanks. There's a steep learning curve.
So you're saying, in order to find the people who are irrigating their lawns with town water and haven't put in a second meter, you need employees to get out on the field and track that down?
We do, yes. We
And
need to
is there a
physically
pro-
observe them
Is there a
irrigating their
process
lawns.
in place to try and make that happen?
It's really hard to find summer help, the last few years.
Do you have the positions funded, you just can't find help?
We have positions that we could hire out of like the Department of Public Works.
Right.
But we haven't been successful the last few years, even hiring summer helpers.
Right, yeah.
Forget about, overnight hours and things like that. You put in different criteria.
Okay, yep.
An IT person might be able to look at the bills and say, here's a 3-bedroom house that's using, I don't know, a gazillion gallons of water. They're irrigating, with town water and send somebody out to look at that property,
And
rather
we
than
are.
driving up and down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning.
And we are doing that to give us the really obvious ones, but there are always going to be outliers that we'd have to ground truth, to confirm that.
Okay, all right, what else don't we know about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, he could tell us when the sewer's going to arrive on Meadowbrook Road, but I don't think that's going to happen.
This is water right now.
20 years.
Judy, you have a question or something that he could add?
No, I was just going to mention before when you were talking about metering, is that we're finding as people are connecting to the sewers, they are separating their irrigation onto separate meters. They're putting wells in because they're getting charged based on their water usage. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So that's happening.
So if
there's
you
an
hook up to the sewer,
incentive.
Your water meter gets checked?
If they hook up to sewer, they get charged their sewer rate based on their water consumption.
Right.
So they'll pay higher, if they're using money for, water for irrigating their lawn, they're paying on the sewer end as well. So that drives them to, expand
Is your
putting a well
incentive.
in.
Right. I guess the other question is, we had a citizen ask whether our town water has fluoride in it.
No, it does not.
Has that ever come up, or do you know of any?
I know it's been tossed around a little bit, but I think it was a pretty unpopular
I didn't think
decision.
it was, and I should.
I guess if you've only been here a year, you don't know. But traditionally, fluoridation in drinking water was all the rage. And if you go on the CDC website, when they champion the biggest 20 most effective interventions of the 20th century, fluoridation of public water systems is there. So how did we get to the point where in the year, 2024, Chatham, which is a very affluent and well-educated community, doesn't have fluoridation? Now, you could argue we don't have a lot of kids either. So you could argue that, we don't have a lot of young mouths that need it, but
This is probably before Mr. Bailey's time.
I suspect
You may know the
so.
answer.
But I'm just wondering out loud, because most areas have long had fluoridated. It costs like dollars a year per person. It's almost free.
Yeah, I think it's still a controversial topic.
Oh, but because of the communists' plot, the mass medication plot, well, right.
Like everything else, there's people that feel that it's dangerous.
I know, but those are non-scientific people.
They're not, but they have a lot of ability to create trouble.
Well,
It's
okay, that was just
pretty good. Any other questions or comments or issues, for Mr. Faley, because we have him here?
well, this has been very helpful for me.
Yeah, anyone from the public would like to make a comment or ask a question, either in the audience or online?
Elaine?
Thank you very much. Yes, I do have a couple comments and questions. I am really concerned, wells 5 and 8, PFAS were first discovered in them in April of 2021. And at that time, we appropriated $6 million. And by the time that they are up and fully functional, it's going to be 5 years. And we then again appropriated another 19.8 million. So we have appropriated 25.8. Whether or not we use that all, I think is still a question. But the bigger concern is from the time we discover PFAS to the time we have the wells up and running is 5 years. I don't know if you had mentioned that the wells 5, 7, and 9, I think, are all in one area. I don't know if they'd be able to use one treatment facility if PFAS are discovered. I think there are two things that we can do that I think are crucial. We were told, I thought it was earlier than 2021. I had, an irrigation system, and I think as of 2018, we were told that we either had to put in a meter or when we had to start registering, or a well. I put in a well because it was going to be way too expensive to put in a meter and then run it all the way up to the house because of the setback. We've been telling people this. I got a letter in the mail and I absolutely panicked and made sure I got in at the deadline. all the correspondence we've sent out in the water and sewer bills to the public have been these really nice, gee, we'd like you to volunteer to fill out these forms and tell us what you have. You know, do you have an irrigation system with treated water, or do you have a well? I think that time has passed. Instead of saying you need to register within X number of days and you need to get this done, or if we find out you did, you're going to get fined $300 retroactively for every day you weren't in compliance. I find it unconscionable that there are people in town that a simple thing of registering with the town and telling us, and then doing, you know, they have options. I'm on well. The other thing is tourism is a reality. And to talk about full-time residents having to conserve where we can't do the basic things, you know, to take care of our residents, when I think we believe there's between 2,000 and 3,000 short-term rentals in Chatham. And, you know, they can use outdoor showers, and that's not considered a violation because the water's coming from inside the house. We know that there are 20 beds when there are only supposed to be, you know, 6. I think since we're collecting that data on the short-term rentals, I think that's a really good place to start to find out who's in violation. If you see that a 3-bedroom is using X number of gallons and you have the right to inspect that property, I think that's where you go to find out who's in violation, because clearly they are using more water than they should be, and it's probably an irrigation system that they haven't registered. But more importantly, we keep talking about it, but people don't think it's necessary. If we had more storage capacity, we wouldn't be running into these problems as much. I mean, we've had a really crummy spring with a lot of rain. And if we had the ability to store more and pump more, so that as we go into the tourist season, we have more, would make perfect sense. And then to look at putting in more wells. I have real concerns. We spent, I don't know, 20 million on wells 10 and 11, but they don't have iron and manganese or PFAS filtration. If PFAS show up there, those wells are getting shut down, and it sounds like they're going to be shut down for 5 years from beginning to end. And we can't afford to let that happen. Affordable housing, the mission of the Affordable Housing Trust is their hope is to increase our full-time population by 1,000. You know, we've got to have water for this. And, you know, if we don't have drinking water, nothing else really matters. So I would hope that instead of it's going to be long-term anyway because everything takes so long. So we have to do this yesterday, in my view, to decide that we need more storage tanks. We need more pumping capacity. We need more wells because PFAS are ubiquitous. They can show up anywhere. And if they do, and they are over the 4, because the feds have reduced it from 20 parts per million to 4 parts per million. If we go over that, we can only blend so much until we are exceeding it and have to shut those wells down. So I guess I'm concerned that I don't see a sense of urgency on this, because I think it's the single biggest thing that we're facing. And because of the time lag from beginning to end to get wells up and running is so long and so expensive that it has to be put in our budgets. We have to know what to expect, and we have to prepare the public for that. You know, that this is going to be a very costly effort. And I would have hoped that there were warrant articles on this last warrant to start doing design work for increased storage capacity. And I wish we had located an area where we could put in some new wells and get the ball rolling. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So do you proactively send out notices to residents, you know, blanket notices about the new, about getting a second metering system?
Yes, we do.
And then it's just
We get a very
voluntarily,
low
they comply
response rate.
voluntarily?
Yeah, it's a voluntary thing. We get a low response rate.
Right.
All right.
I would love to be more heavy-handed to get some answers, but that would probably be a decision the select board would
Right.
need to make as the water and sewer commissioners.
Correct. Other questions from online for Mr. Faley? Okay, other questions from the board? John, you have a
Has
question?
there been any consideration of starting to plan for another storage tank?
We have not at this time, so they're 1.25 million and 1.35 million gallons.
But they have alarms in them that go off periodically because we don't have enough water storage.
We have to keep it at 75-foot level. Once we get below that level, then firefighting measures come into question.
So if we had a third tank and it was full, then the level of the 3 tanks wouldn't go down nearly as quickly. So it would help.
True. I think getting all of our wells up and running and healthy is probably a first order of business, but exploring storage is definitely on the table.
Okay, great, thank you very much, that was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like a big job.
Thanks,
And
Rob.
the Water and Sewer Commissioners is the Select Board.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
this is information for us, thank you. Okay. Third on our schedule is an update, John McGrath, 32 Mill Hill Road, and Judy has an update on that, which will be very helpful for us to know about.
So in your packet, you have a draft letter that has not been sent yet. I wanted the board to see it before I sent it. It's not unlike the last letter we sent Mr. McGrath several years ago. It's a notice of violation. It's basically a nuisance letter citing unsanitary conditions noted in yard, rubbish, metal tires, other items that may provide rodent harborage, mosquito breeding, as well as items that are considered flammable and combustible and could be an environmental hazard. So, you know, the reason why I've done this is we had a staff meeting with all the departments and to discuss the ongoing situation at the property on Mill Hill Road. And our town council was there, and he feels that we should all send out orders respective of our departments, so a zoning order, a conservation order, a health order, police department for, you know, whatever is going on down there for parking and all of that. And then, so that when we take the next step, which will be court action, everything will be fresh and not some order from 5 years ago that we never followed up on, or
So he wants it to be
didn't-
coordinated and well-timed so that all the town
right,
offices that have an interest in this issue have kind of
correct.
reissued, freshened their,
And that's the thinking right now. So we're going to meet again, the staff, with town council. I forget the date we're meeting, but it'll be coming up in the next week or two. And then at that point, everybody will have sent out orders, and we'll see, you know, whether he has responded at all or complied, which we seriously doubt. And then the next step will be, I guess the next step is Superior Court.
Judy, are you able to speak about what issues have come up or what has changed that has stirred many of these town departments to now get together and take
Well,
definitive action?
I think that the level of frustration from the neighborhood has been ramping up, and for good reason. I totally understand that. We've also had concerns about some unhoused folks living on the property on the lake, which is causing concern, not only for sanitation issues, but for conservation issues. There's burning going on.
Bathroom facilities? Well,
I don't know,
How are they
yeah.
living unhoused, in tents or makeshift?
They've got like a makeshift shelter down there. We've got pictures of that
on this property.
on the pond,
Is he
yeah.
renting these or is he just a charity thing? Nobody
I
knows.
don't know. I don't know for sure. And the police have tried to, this has been going on for months now, and the police have tried to find alternate housing for these people, and that just hasn't happened.
So that's got the building department involved,
So it-
police involved, fire's involved, health
Zoning,
department's involved, zoning's involved.
Are these people here at the pleasure of Mr. McGrath?
I
or
believe so, yes.
He is aware of who they are and
Yeah, I
he's
think he's
okay with-
allowing them to live there. I've heard that they may be using his house as well, but I'm not sure.
And I know if you drive by, the dumping of scrap metal is ongoing, and it's more than it was before, just over the guardrail. I mean, it's an active business coming and going.
Right.
Pretty
So
several months
that'd be
ago.
another thing, it would be running an illegal scrap yard.
Several months ago, we heard the EPA, the Mass EPA, or
So
was
DEP
really involved in this, and they were going to start finding.
And they still are. I spoke to the person at DEP. He was sent an order, a notice of noncompliance, and Mr. McGrath ignored that. But my person at the state has said that they've never had that happen, that someone completely ignored one of their orders. So she was a little concerned and was not sure how what the next step was, because usually people respond in the 14 days and then they have,
I thought there was supposed to be a recurring
right.
notice of continued violation with a new and additional penalty.
The letter said 14 days to contact, to lay out a plan for correcting the violation, and then 120 days to
You mean
correct
from the state, John?
From the
from the
state.
state. And then 120 days for a total cleanup. So she was going to talk to their council to say whether they were going to, since he already passed the 14 days, and whether they were going to wait for the 120 days.
No.
And then take him, which is probably not that far from now, because,
I think what's happened to me, the way I read it now, is that the Mass DEP has been slow, but the town has reached the point where the town is going to move ahead and take its own action independently and now start doing something definitively. And correct me if I'm wrong, the Mass DEP will continue what they do, but the town's going to move ahead. That's the
Right.
big change.
But the town was at this level 4 years ago.
No, I don't think so. Before.
well, yes,
It
We
was mainly,
threatened that we were going to do this, and we were going to do that, and we were going to do this, and he ignored it, and we didn't do anything.
so.
He's going to ignore this for sure.
I think the difference then was, it was the Board of Health. We were the ones that called them a public nuisance, and we were taking action, and we were waiting for the Mass DEP. And it's been slow, no question about it. But I think now, new things have happened with this housing business, with many of the Chatham Town departments getting involved. It's reached a whole new level. I don't think, my own opinion, anybody can step back and say, oh, why are you picking on this person, or you're being unfair, or let this fellow alone because he's been here forever. That's gone now. With what's happening now, to me, it's a whole.
Does
new
town
level.
council
We can move
believe,
forward aggressively, the town can, and feel you're doing the right thing.
does town council believe that if we push this through the Superior Court, is that the Superior Court?
That's what he mentioned,
Or
yes.
District Court?
It's a Superior Court, I believe.
Okay.
That's
The
what he
next-
mentioned in our meeting. Then there would be hopefully a court order to clean up, and if he
judicial order.
violates that, I mean, that's if it goes in that direction, then the next thing would be he would be arrested, I guess.
But the key is, as I understand it, is that the town council, Pat Costello, was involved in these meetings, and and it's a coordinated thing. These letters are going out again to make sure legally all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and then they're going to coordinate moving ahead
So
with whatever.
Costello is
whatever the
then
next
going
step
to
is.
take point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coordinate this collective.
That's what we agreed upon at our last meeting. We were going to all send a fresh order, have everything, so we have a packet that's relevant and timely, instead of going back and looking at something from 2016 or 2018. Okay, this is, we're basically trying to throw the book at him with everything, and there's a lot, so, and then we'll see.
Okay.
I understand it's frustrating. Even if we go in there and clean it all up again, it's just going to keep happening. So I think this is the next step.
But I think also, since we got involved, the road edge was cleared up. The material was actually spilling onto the asphalt, and the guardrail was placed up. So now the road, to me, is safe for the big trucks going down to Nickerson.
Yes.
That's a big improvement.
Yes, it is.
Now we're talking about the property on the inside, which was kind of the next step.
Right.
Question or comment, Ron?
Yeah, Judy, the people that are living on the beach there, where is the septic going?
There is no septic.
Well, I think that's something we should
Yeah,
take care of right away.
I mean, I can cite that as well in this
Well, I
letter.
mean, recite it with him.
Have you inspected it down there?
I have not been on the property, no, and I won't go
You
on.
don't need
He would need-
permission to go on the property. If you have
We
you
can
know,
go with
Judy,
Board of
if you
Health.
have probable cause to believe that there's something inappropriate happening there, I would think you have the right of entry, whether he wants you to or not. Now, maybe there's a protocol to notice him and have a police officer with you when you decide to do so. But you don't have to,
I can ask
you don't have to be.
town council
that
whether I can
hesitant.
go on the
Get
property.
down there with a camera and document everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the property and I've taken a lot of pictures, but not recently. And we've taken pictures from the neighbor's property of the encampment there.
But they may be just going in a little hole in the ground down there.
They may, you know,
Running up to his house, who knows?
in a perfect world, they're using McGrath's
Toilet.
toilet.
Right.
And I also
I
think what
don't know
Judy's saying
that.
is that the town is being very careful that they're doing everything by the book.
Yep.
You know, with advice from the town attorney.
Is the
But
town attorney aware of this?
Yes,
Guy living on there? That the people living on the,
that's one of the, yep, that's one of the,
He's in their
That's
meetings and coordinating it legally, I
So
believe.
maybe there is your point, is that you ask town council, is there a way for you or someone from the town to go on the property and document what's going on? And if so, how do you, I mean, you can't be dependent on permission. We've got to do that. So how do we get access to the property? Is it, we just notice him in writing and say, on this date, we're gonna come there?
At least it's extra ammunition, extra information that can be used.
I'll follow up with that.
Ron?
what was the outcome of his house when the state came in? They looked at his house, I
They didn't
remember,
go inside.
Did they
No.
look at his
when we
house?
looked
No.
outside and they didn't make any
No,
determination.
no, they didn't, we didn't go in his house. They just walked around this
I don't
property.
believe they even walked on the property. I think it was
I
all
think
observed from the street because
he
he
did,
wouldn't allow it.
the initial DEP inspector did.
Yes, he was
declared it an
invited on
illegal
by
dump.
Mr. McGrath alone.
Right,
The initial inspector, then there was a new inspector took his position, his place, and then she just looked, I believe.
But they declared it an illegal,
Public nuisance. as
landfill,
we did, yeah.
basically, and illegal dumping,
Dump, yeah.
right. They made that declaration.
yes. But what they're doing is separate from us. I don't have any control over that. And she did say to me when she sent that, she still recommended that the town follow their own path as well. So, and I think if we move forward and we know that there's an outstanding DEP order, when it gets to court, that's gonna add ammunition for our case as
I
well.
think the hope now is that the town's action will be quicker than Mass DEP is acting, so they're gonna move ahead.
Hopefully, yep.
Questions, comments? Any comments or questions from the public? Yes? Well, yeah, go up to the, excuse me? The one closest to you. And then just identify yourself and,
Yeah, my name is Matt Linnell. I live on Mill Hill Road.
what's your name again?
Matt Linnell.
Linnell, oh, yeah.
And, you know, I addressed Judy a while ago about the tent situation on the property, and she told me that it was perfectly legal. So I'm a little miffed about that.
I never said it was legal, no.
Well, you said there was nothing you could do about it.
That we were working with the zoning and the building inspector on that, and the police. I never said
But
it
it's
was
been,
legal.
well, whatever. I don't have it anyway. But the can has got kicked far enough down this road. I mean, I've been at this for 20 years. I've lived on that road for 30 years. It's the same thing. And I got a few problems with it now. It's got to end. People are starting to dump on it again. The pile's getting higher. My wife confronted somebody that was dumping on it. And then Mr. McGrath, with his infinite wisdom, pulled her over to the side of the road and said it was none of her business and all this and that. And, you know, I had to go over there and verbally have to deal with Mr. McGrath. This is out of control, and this has to stop. And we've been kicking this can down the road way too long. If I lived on Shore Road, this would have been taken care of a long time ago. You know, and I'm tired of it. And you know, you can go another 120 days, but why aren't we putting fines on them for $1,000 a day or something like that? You know, money talks, you know. You've set a precedent that you can get away with this forever, you know, and it's crazy to me.
Seems like an
You know,
He
and it
has
goes-
been fined by the police department. He doesn't pay the fines. So we can, that all is
This is
ammunition.
another issue too, but the police don't do anything anymore. And that's not your problem, but his truck is halfway on the road and it just stays there. The police, I see them at parking lots, I see them at Dunkin' Donuts, I see them everywhere, but do they put a ticket on the car? No. I mean, I have to physically call them to do anything. And why is it my burden? It's not my job.
Yeah, I would ask you, so have you made a formal complaint to the police department? I mean, anything
I've
you...
made several of them.
Okay, good. And then, when did you first notice tents there, would you say?
The tents have been there since February, March.
February, March, okay.
This has been going on and on and on and on. I've made the town aware of it, but they don't seem to, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's Mill Hill Road. Who
Right.
cares?
Who do you go to the town, what member of the town do you go to?
What's
Do you
that?
come to
now?
the Board of Health on
I talked to her about it, and she.
tent and everything?
I think anything you put in writing in terms of what you see going on there helps.
But this isn't my job, though. You
No,
know,
it's not your job.
I'm going
It's our-
fishing in like 2 hours. I'm not going to be home for 3 days. But this is,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
it just can't go on anymore.
Right, I think we agree with you, and
I mean, I was here 3 years ago. You guys did the same thing with the
Right.
letter, and nothing happened.
right, no, the road edge was cleared up and the guardrail was placed, which was a help for the traffic, but the house.
It was a help. I'll give you that.
But the property, we've been going on, and we got the Mass DEP involved, and we've been bending over backwards, you
But
know.
you got to
to-
see our
Oh,
frustration.
absolutely, and I
mean,
think the good news for you today is the news that Judy has. So now we have police, fire, the building department, the health department,
I understand. I'm just very frustrated. I don't mean to yell and holler, but
and
I'm
the
just,
town
you know.
attorney. They are coordinating an effort where they are going to do something, and I guess it's probably going to, in my opinion, wind up in court, and it will move ahead. But I think.
But I think
The
fines
advice
are
is
a good idea.
to be very carefully,
yep.
so that we have things legally, we've done everything we should, because that's what you gotta do.
But things are escalating on that road. You know, he goes out and starts yelling at people driving by, you know, and it's getting a little, you know, dicey.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the one chasing him around because he's verbally abusing people, and you know, and nobody else wants to do it because everybody's afraid of him on the road, and nobody wants to do anything about it. So
Right. Now, do these people living there have cars themselves, that they park on the road edge, that you know of?
there's nobody living in car. They just have
No, the people living in the tents.
They have a car, a black car, and they had it down by the pond, and then they brought it back. I don't know how they got it down there, and then it's by the rocks or wherever they
Yeah.
could squeeze it in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a disgrace.
Right.
I mean, it really is. To have this go on this long is a disgrace. And this will probably be the last time I'm gonna really speak about it, but because I've been here before, and 3 years ago, I went to town meeting when we approved $150,000 to get the crap out of there, but none of that happened. I mean, it's just, what more, what are we gonna do? Are we just gonna keep doing what we're doing and, oh, he won't answer the letter, okay, we'll give him another chance. I mean, he's a very threatening person, so it's getting to a point where,
Understood.
and I don't want to have to be defending myself in court because, I don't get any reaction from the police or, the boards, so.
Well, it's very frustrating to this board too, and he was in here several years ago.
Oh, I know.
And his approach was, I'm gonna sue you all, and you wanted everybody's name so he could hire a lawyer and sue us.
Yeah, but he has-
That's just the way he behaves, but it's extraordinarily difficult to get
Yeah,
things to move here. It's been going on for what, 10 years, 12, more than 10 years.
I mean, I've been there for
And-
30 years, and I still see some of the
Yeah,
crap that was
and
there 30 years ago.
It's very
so.
frustrating to me that this doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's what my frustration is. This doesn't go anywhere. I mean, we've been going around and around and around. I mean, we approved 150,000 3 years ago to clean the rest of the yard up, and it's, you know, enough is enough. You know?
Do it, well, let's just take the point that was just raised. The fact that the town did agree to set aside in a special health department enforcement account some money. And now, we have not chosen to move on that, but maybe we need to talk about that. Maybe we need to consider getting some quotes on how far would that money carry us towards a cleanup? And would it make any sense for us to spend that money on getting as much of that debris removed as we could with that 150, and then placing a lien on the property so that the town at the end of the day will recover whatever we lay out? And if nothing else, that will at least show,
Yeah, you should be doing something.
it would show at least evidence that the board and the town are serious in wanting to do whatever they can, even getting it partially cleaned up. Now, if 2 years later it's refilled again,
Which it will be.
right? Well, I mean, exactly. Then, okay, then you get more appropriation and you do it again, and now he's got a $300,000 lien on his property.
You wonder how much the property's worth.
I don't know what the property's worth, but all I'm saying is maybe we ought to at least think about and consider whether there's some basis for us to, I have no idea how you would even
No,
quote
I
that.
understand. I certainly appreciate what you said, and we feel the same way, and it has
Yeah, I
been
just-
slow.
I
We
mean,
admit it.
It'll probably be my last time. I don't really feel like
No, it's perfectly
yelling and hollering
understandable.
about all this, but it's just, at the end of the day, you know, I'm still.
But I think the good news is, I believe it's going to move ahead now. But let me ask Judy, so in the discussion with the town departments, you know, originally 3 years ago, it was given to us because we had the authority to order a cleanup, and there was the fund created that we could, on our own, go in and clean it up. Now it's become a bigger problem, and all the town departments are involved. Is that fund going to be used? Are they going to use our authority in part?
We don't-
Once it's a public nuisance?
The fund is still there. I'm not sure if they used part of it for cleaning up the road.
I don't think so.
I kind of think
Yeah,
they
I don't-
did, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I could find out, but, I'm a little uncomfortable with going in and cleaning up the property, but if the town is willing to do it, and we can get contractors willing to do it, and the town council feels that it's something that we can do, I'm not sure if we need a court order to do it or not, but this is something that I will bring up when we meet again, but, we are definitely moving forward with this, court order.
What are they hoping to achieve with the court order?
Maybe get his attention, get him to start moving the stuff out. It's scrap metal.
See,
I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
That will not
It's
affect.
frustrating.
That will not affect change, but I believe,
It won't affect change.
I believe that there's a legal remedy called the self-help remedy that allows municipalities to take action on their own to address longstanding, non-compliant situations
Yeah, I believe that. There is.
in a way that can then affect that correction and then place a lien against the responsible party, the property owner, for that exact amount that the town puts up. And that lien will not be resolved until,
Lien for the cost of cleaning up? you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
until and unless that property owner either passes away or sells the property. And at that point, the town is first in line to get reimbursed for what it put on, what it put out.
And
So-
what about fines? Why isn't he being fined?
You can't fine him until you go to court. So you know, and then any other fines that the ticketing that they've done, he hasn't paid anyway, so.
Well, I guess,
No, but if the fines are large enough and you had it every day, it's gonna accumulate and then attach it to the property.
I don't know how that works,
You
but
get a lien.
I don't know how that works, whether you can attach the fines to his property.
That would be a
suppose you could.
question for you to pose to Town Council Costello. What happens if?
yeah.
What would be the
Yeah, I think that's
endpoint?
right. And then I can remember Pat Costello himself came to us, and because of this problem, and instead of having it taken care of by the select board who issue licenses for junkyards, and this would be an illegal junkyard, he said it would be better for us to do it, Board of Health, because it was our power, we could go in and clean up the yard on our own power, and we could avoid court. I remember him saying that. So a question for your committee would be, how does that power and that advice back then sort of fit in with what's they're proposing now? Would it
Yeah.
help facilitate what the town wants to do with the backing of all these other departments in addition?
It's a good question.
Because
could
now
do
he's
it.
saying, let's go to court. But before, his argument was, have us do it, because then we wouldn't have to go to court, as I remember it. Do you remember? Is that?
Yeah, no,
Well,
I
that's just
mean,
a- in
think
your
I
discussions,
think the
that's a question for
town
him, I think.
staff and everyone has just felt that it was a little unpalatable to go in and clean it up.
Yes.
But,
It's like,
Well, I think there's
Yeah.
an element of that, but then you have neighbors, I mean,
Yep.
think of them.
Yep.
So,
Well,
So-
whatever you guys decide.
Anyway,
I
this
just- I gotta go.
okay,
I need
thank you very
guys,
much.
so-
Thank you.
Dave, thank you.
Thank
Other
you.
input from the audience or from online on the McGrath property? Okay. Other comments and questions? So I think so this committee thing is, when's your next meeting?
I'd have to look.
Weeks or
We did-
months or-
No, weeks, within the
Weeks.
next week or
Yep.
two. What I
So
will
you
do
can
is
give us
bring
a-
all this up at the meeting. I
In
will
our
also
next
send out
meeting.
this order. I will also add unsanitary conditions for possible human waste, et cetera.
Will Pat Costello be there?
At the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so ask him that question, though.
Yes, oh, no,
Because
definitely.
it seems like it's sort of different, a little bit different advice.
So we'll,
then-
everybody will have sent out their orders, and then we
And we
will
can put it on, we
discuss
can
it.
put it on the agenda for our next meeting, just a quick follow-up.
Yep.
Which is June 3rd or
Can't do
6th?
the 3rd because that's the focus group. We have
Okay,
nothing
the
on
meeting
there.
after-
So
It'll be
meeting
the
after
Second meeting in June.
17th or something?
We can put it on the agenda, we can get a follow-up.
17th,
17.
yep.
Okay.
This has been for years. Judy,
Yes?
will you find out what you can do about those people living on the beach?
Oh, she
Well,
wrote down to,
I mean, what I can do? I mean, are you, yeah, I mean, it's, first of all, it's a zoning issue. No one's allowed to live in tents in Chatham or, illegal structures.
Are people aware of that who would have to reinforce
I
that?
think, I guess
Ye-
Ron's
yeah,
question is
that's-
what's their septic system?
Well, there is none. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how I'm gonna find out. I'm sure he's not gonna answer me if I ask, so.
exactly right. You gotta send the police down there and then handcuff them and bring them up and then prosecute them.
If the police are notified that people are living on that property illegally, the police should go immediately to that property and inspect the property, to determine the degree of criminal violations that are occurring, and potentially
it's-
arrest Mr.
Yeah,
McGrath.
I don't
That's
know.
what we have
I don't-
police for.
I don't know the law, but it is private property, and
But if there's a law
it's
against.
a zoning
hence-
violation. It's not,
Violation.
Being illegally used.
So it's like
Yeah.
having an extra bedroom.
I don't think you can just go arrest somebody for a zoning violation unless you've gone a court route, so.
Has anybody else in the town gone down there or seen it or done anything about it?
I mean, the police have seen it and done it, and the zoning and
The fire's been down there,
conservation,
so
we've
They know all
all,
about it and they're
we've
not
all,
doing anything?
He
no, we're all.
illegally burns fires.
I'm not saying
The fire
about the
department's-
general thing, I'm talking about the people living on the beach down there. That is unbelievable. Somebody should be able to get rid of them, put them somewhere.
Again, that's what we're trying to
I feel
do,
bad for
but
them if they have to live.
So if they went and pitched a tent on Lighthouse Beach and were living there,
that's town property.
Who owns the beach down there?
We do. Town does.
Lighthouse Beach, yeah.
The one they're sleeping on.
No, it's McGrath's property.
They're on private property.
It's McGrath's property, and he's allowing them to do this.
Well, it goes down to the lake. Yeah.
Okay.
It's his property. Yeah.
Okay, so Judy has another meeting with the town group. She'll bring up the Pat Costello questions and our questions, and then we'll put it on the agenda for the second meeting in June as follow-up and hear back from Judy, and kind of go from there. But I have my own opinion, the sense that something's going to happen now. So,
One way or the other.
right. And
I turn along.
there's a good question of, do we have the authority just to order a cleanup? I think what I've heard is still it's difficult to do that even, but anyway, we'll get that.
The town has to put it out to bid, we have to get contractors that agree to do it.
There were contractors who
Yes,
wouldn't
you know.
do that before. Dr. Duncanson found a specific contractor out of town, I think, who said he would do it, get involved with it. But anyway, so Judy will have her meetings. She'll ask those questions. If anyone else has a question they want Judy to address in the meetings, just email her and let her know. And we'll put it on the agenda for the second meeting in June. Okay, so now we have minutes from May 6th. Did anyone have an addition or correction? And if not, can we get
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from
a second?
I'll second it.
And we can vote that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, those minutes are approved. And then, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Okay, and we can, all in favor, voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.